They'll come just for lunch.
She's right there. She just said she came for the lunch.
I also came to lunch.
No, that's not what you said. You answered the question. You came for lunch only. That's not what you can't take it back now. You can't take it back. I'm just kidding. We're just teasing. We like to have fun at DPS Advisors. We're not one of those stodgy financial advisors that take everything too serious. You know, that's why I make fun of my weight. I'm a short, fat Italian guy. All right, so we'll get going, okay? So I'm going to introduce myself if you don't remember. Oh, yeah, you know what? Before we start, Chris, ask him to turn the music off in here. I forgot it was even on. Yeah, thank you so much for pointing that out. So you guys have met Luke and Ted outside when you were checking in. You probably talked to them on the phone when you were registering for this event. My name is John Papa. I'm the president and founder of DPS Advisors. I started this practice with my dad 39 years ago, 1986. I know I look like I'm 40, but I'm old. I just turned 60 actually. So I started the practice in 86 with my dad, and we were running regular, setting up 401ks for small businesses and pretty much being like a regular financial advisor until our clients started getting older and retiring, and they were like, what do we do now with our money? You got us to retirement. What do we do now? So we shifted our practice probably in the mid to late 90s into like, what should people be doing who are 50 years old and above on how to design a retirement plan, an investment strategy as you get older, because it's a totally different mindset from investing when you're younger than when you're in retirement. So we switched our practice over, and now we've been doing this for a really, really long time. You met Luke. Luke Papa, it's my son. He came into our firm. He graduated from University of South Carolina 2 years ago, and just recently passed all of his exams with the SEC and FINRA, so now he's a licensed fiduciary as well. And you probably also met Ted out front, Ted Fiore. He's my brother-in-law. We're truly a family-run practice. He's my brother-in-law, married to his sister, so I can't really say anything bad about him or I get yelled at. But he's new to our firm, but not new to the financial advisory industry. He's been with Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, in this field, but not personally advising people. So about 8 months ago, he decided he wanted to give it a shot. Coming here is working out great. So that's the three of us. You might have also talked to Susie in my office. Susie, she coordinates everything in our office. She's everyone's daughter. She's like my second wife. She yells at me constantly too. Probably our clients like her better than me, so she's really good. Been with us for 19 years, so that tells you a little about something. So we're a small, family-run office, independent fiduciaries, independent financial advisors. We do have a back office staff out in Arizona, where it's Luke and I are heading there tomorrow for some conferences and recording more TV shows. So we have a back office team behind us of about 150 people. We manage probably about $350 million of individual client money, about 300 families we serve, and we've been doing it for a really long time. I want you to sit back. We're not selling you anything today. I want you to enjoy some of the information. There's not a ton of people here, so we'll ask some questions as you have any as we're going. But if we're pressed for time, because they want to get the meals out, it's hard for them to time, and I keep telling them we'll get everybody out by the meals out by 1. But so if we get hurt for time, I'm going to be here for a little while afterwards, and Luke and Ted will be here. We'll answer any question you guys have while lunch is going on or whatever, just so we can help the restaurant out a little bit. Okay, so with that, let's start along. This is for compliance reasons. There's compliance in everything we do today. So I know you probably can't read it, and that's okay, but it's got to stay on there for about 30 seconds, and then I'm fully compliant with what we're going to talk about today. All right. What it really says is everything in here is informational. You shouldn't make any decisions without, consulting your professional, your tax professional, your attorney professional, your financial advisor. Why did you accept the invitation? Okay. Besides the lunch, okay. It's a really nice restaurant, but hopefully it's about learning some different type of strategies and techniques to make your retirement or your investment plan a better plan than it was before you came here. So Hopefully that's what you're going to get out of it. This is a short video, but we've seen enough videos, so I'm not going to play it, about how I got into this business. Most people think that, oh, you deal with financial advisors, you know, they're the one percenters. No, I said, yeah, I started this practice with my dad 39 years ago because my dad was a hairdresser for most of his career. We were 6 people living in a 1-bathroom house in Roseland. We're middle class, and we are to this day middle class people. My dad couldn't cut hair anymore, so he answered an ad to sell life insurance. So that's what he started doing. He was in the business maybe 6 years before I graduated college, and then I didn't know what I wanted to do. So he was like, well, come work in the agency that he worked at and see what you want to do. So I did. I hated selling life insurance, but I learned that I really liked investment strategies. You know, I used my management degree at Trenton State College, and I loved economic courses. So I was like, hey, why don't we just open up our own practice and let's do all kinds of stuff. You do the insurance, I'll do investments, and that's kind of what we did in 1986. So we created diversified planning strategies, you know, legally 39 years ago. He would have loved. I have an older daughter and a niece and nephew. He had 4 grandkids. He passed away 4 years ago. He didn't know any of his grandkids wanted to come into the business, so he'd be really psyched knowing that Luke came in and is going to be 3rd generation of a papa running DPS Advisors. So we think that's pretty cool. But that's where we started. We're not some, you know, rich Goldman Sachs guy. We're hardworking middle class America, and that's who we relate to. I don't have any of those big clients like that. My clients are like the people sitting here in the room. I'm an independent licensed fiduciary. I've been on shows on Fox Business. There's a show every Sunday called The Wealth Council, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They bring advisors in across the country, and we talk about different ideas and different things going on in the retirement space. So I've recorded about 7 of their episodes. So I've been on their show, so I've been on Fox Business. I've been on a show called The Worldwide Exchange on CNBC that's broadcast in 90 countries across the world and talking about retirement planning. I was on MSNBC doing the same thing, being a guest expert, talking about estate planning and retirement planning. My show broadcast on WPIX, Channel 11. I've written articles for Benzinga and MarketWatch. I also wrote a book called Avoiding the Retirement Traps. 39 years working as a licensed fiduciary, working with the client's best interest at all times. I'll explain to you what a licensed fiduciary means. Have anybody heard that term before? A fiduciary? Okay, I'm going to use the analogy of Home Depot. I do this all the time. Let's say you're working with a big box firm person and you need a hammer to hang that picture on the wall. And they sell you a 20-pound hammer. They pull it out of their big box firm bag. They sell you a 20-pound hammer. That's a suitable recommendation. You asked them for a hammer, they sold you a hammer, and they can't get in trouble for that. A licensed fiduciary, if you file a complaint, will probably get fined for that because we're Home Depot. When you come in to me and say, hey, I need a hammer to hang that picture on my wall, I'm going to say, okay, let's go to aisle 12. I have hammers from 1-pound hammers to sledgehammers. I have to ask you some questions. Any heart conditions, any ailments, any illnesses, any orthopedic issues, shoulder injuries, wrist injuries. I have to ask you a bunch of more questions to find the right hammer that's going to work for you. That's what the fiduciary standard of care is when you're dealing with a client. There's a suitable standard and there's a fiduciary standard. There's only 2 types of advisors who can say they're licensed fiduciaries. One is a certified financial planner, CFP. The other is a registered investment advisor, or RIA. We are all registered investment advisors. So if you get one thing out of today's meeting besides a great lunch, you're going to be able to go back and ask your current advisor, are you a fiduciary? And if they say yes, the next question you want to ask is, well, which one? CFP or RIA? If they're neither one of those, I hate to tell you, your advisor's lying to you, okay? Those are the only 2 licensed fiduciaries allowed by the SEC to say that they're fiduciaries, okay? So all 3 of us are licensed fiduciaries. This is the Papa Report. I kind of told you all about where this is on right now. I wrote a book, Avoiding the Retirement Traps. We're working on a second book called The Intelligent Investor. That book's about halfway done. hopefully in the next couple months, I'll get the rest of it finished. Okay, so let's talk about the first topic, right? Social Security. Nobody here is collecting Social Security, right? You guys look too young for that.
You do.
Okay. So Social Security, the thing now in 2015 or 16, the Social Security Act, the Bipartisan Budget Act, they changed the rules of Social Security. There used to be a lot of different ways or techniques to get the maximum amount of income from Social Security. It was, you used to be able to file and suspend, collect. You can still collect half of your spouse's if it's higher, but they did away with it basically. All the techniques are gone. It's really right now your decision is, when do I turn on Social Security, right? So we're going to give you some Social Security basics. For those of you who are not collecting Social Security just yet, you can turn on Social Security at 62 years old. Did you know that's the earliest you can turn it on, okay? If you turn it on at 62, you're going to get 75% of the benefit that you put in, that your statement shows you, the benefit that you're going to potentially get. At 62, you'll get 75% of it. Full retirement age, depending on what year you were born, is between 66 and 67. I'm 60 years old. My full retirement age is 67 years old. If I wait till 67 years old, I'll get 100% of the benefit. You can also delay till 70. 70 is the latest you should wait. There's no benefit going further past 70. At 70, you're going to collect almost 132% of the benefit you put in. You get 8% increases in your Social Security benefit from full retirement age until 70 years old. Who here, who has heard, politicians like to use it as a political thing in elections, and we just went through an election. Social Security is going to be broke. Democrats say Republicans are going to make it broke. Republicans say Democrats are going to make it broke. Everybody heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't believe it, okay? Why? Why should I not believe that, okay? Well, first thing, Social Security is it's a pay-as-you-go system. So we're all paying into Social Security now through our work. If you're still working, we're all paying into it, right? We're paying for the people today who are collecting. They're not taking the money out of my pay. That's called FICA. You guys remember that? It's called FICA. It's 6.25% is what they take out of your wages, and then your employer pays some as well. It doesn't go to your Social Security benefit. It's going to pay to people who are collecting now, right? So when they say you're going to make Social Security broke, what they mean is if there's no changes, Social Security will probably pay out about 75 to 80% of your estimated benefits, okay? Or unless everybody in the United States stops working and taking a paycheck, then Social Security will be broke because there's no money going into the system. That's not going to happen, okay? So Social Security has been around since the mid-30s. FDR created it, right? Why are there problems, or why should there be changes? And I believe there should be. I believe our politicians should come in and make some changes to this thing. Because when Social Security was first created by FDR, they decided that retirement was going to be 65 years old. Does anybody know what the life expectancy was in 1935? It was 59 years old, or 60. It was a political toy back when it was created. Hey, we'll take money from people's pay. We're going to say retirement's going to be 65. The average life expectancy is 59, 60. We're never going to pay out of this thing, right? So in the 100 and some odd year, almost 100 years it's been around, they've only changed full retirement age to 67. It went 2 years, right? Where did life expectancy go? Way up. We're in like the late 70s, 80s, people live into 90s, people live into, how many people but are here over 100? There's so many people we're living longer, not less, right? Is that, everybody agree with that? Okay, so when they created Social Security, there's no way they thought that they would be paying the benefits they'd be paying. They thought they would never pay out benefits, or very little of the benefit. So I think there's going to have to be some change, right? It's not going to be a drastic thing where, we're going to take the people who are about to collect and lower the benefits down. I think what they're going to do, and what they could get away with, is probably just moving the full retirement age a little longer. 68, 69, or 70 years old. People like Luke just coming into the workforce. Your full retirement age is going to be 70. Move that out, and that'll keep the process going. It'll make it a lot easier on the Social Security system. Couple other basics of Social Security. Does that make sense to everybody? A politician can get away with that, saying, hey, we're going to raise retirement age to 70. That's for the 20-year-olds. We're not going to have that's not going to affect us. We paid into the system for 40 years. Right? We're not going to be affected. That's going to affect the younger people, which it should, because they're going to be living till they're 100, 110, these younger people today. So that should happen. Cost of living since 1975, the average cost of living in Social Security was 3.69%. In the last 20 years, it was 2.6. In 2022, what did the Federal Reserve start doing with interest rates? They started raising them, right? It was really good for our savings accounts and CDs, right, and money markets, and also for cost of living. Social Security cost of living increase in 2022, I think, was just shy of 9% that year. And subsequently, the rates have come down, so cost of living adjustment has come back down. And in fact, 2025, the rate was 2.5%, okay? Social Security wage tax, what that means is, what's the most money you can make in salary or income that's going to count towards Social Security? And in 2025, it's $176,100. So that means that if you make any more money than that, that extra money there won't be a Social Security FICA deduction for that. That's the maximum pay you can get. Does anybody know that you have to work 40 quarters to get you qualify for Social Security? You know that terminology? Right? So if you maxed out the Social Security wages throughout your entire working career, these are the benefits that you're going to collect. If you maxed it out, the highest Social Security check that could be paid out today is $5,100. The minimum benefit, so if you paid the minimum amount in, is $2,800. And at full...
Based on salary at I'm sorry, the $5,100, is that if you made 176.
Well, that number, if you see in 2024, that highest wage was 168. Right. 2023 was 164. So if you made the highest wage number every year to qualify for Social Security, your maximum benefit at 70 would be $5,100.
But you had to make that.
You had to hit the maximums every year.
Right. If you didn't
to
hit
get
the
that.
maximum,
If you didn't hit the maximum, you're going to get a lower number.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, that's just what the maximum benefit is. So really today, the decision is, when do I want to turn it on? Okay, and there's not a lot of people talking about the one factor that you need to consider when you turn on Social Security is your health, right? If you were living longer, but if you have some unfortunate health issues that are probably going to prevent you from living to life expectancy or not, and this is something that you have a conversation with your doctor and ask the question, hey, what do you think my chances of living to life expectancy? If they say it's really good, then if you can afford to delay, you should think about delaying before turning on that Social Security. Now, you have to be able to afford to. That's another issue that's got to go into that equation. Can we afford to not turn it on at full retirement age? Can we wait to 70? So there's a couple factors you want to weigh, and that's what we help clients do on a regular basis. You know, when is the right time to turn it on? And not that I want to know your health history, but I'll tell you, you should talk to your doctor and see what your doctor says. Does that make sense? Okay, because there's large, you're going to see in a second, there's going to be a large difference of when you turn it on. Here is, we changed the name, but these are real life clients of ours. They're not named Ron and Nancy, but they are for our discussion here. And we showed 3 different scenarios of when they were going to turn on Social Security. So Ron was 60 years old, Nancy was 58, and they wanted to turn it on at 62 years old. Ron's going to live to 85, men younger or less older than women. So Ron's going to live to 85 life expectancy, Nancy's 90. If they turned on Social Security both at age 62, their cumulative value of their benefits at the time of their passing would be about $1,659,000, okay? If they wait till full retirement age, which for both of them is 67 years old, you'll see the difference in benefit. It goes from $1,906 for Ron to 3,011 for Ron at 67, and 1410 to 2235 for Nancy. They turned it on at 67. They lived to 85 and 90. They would have received $1,944,000 in benefits. Now, if they could afford to wait till 70, you'll see the difference in benefit now. That's $37.92 for Ron, $28.15 for Nancy, over $2.1 million in benefits if they live to 85 and 90. So there's a big monetary difference in this decision. But the decision is not the same for everybody. This doesn't mean you go home and say, we're waiting to 70. Because we have to factor in, how's my health? Can I afford to wait?
What am I gonna break even at too?
Yeah, that time frame is about mid 70s, 76 years old is when to break, if you wait till 70. They're 76, 77 years old. So again, you're factoring in. Now, you can't plan for, God forbid, an airplane crash or something like that, something crazy. But if you think you can live, you're going to live the life expectancy, there's a real good chance, then you have a decision to make. And it's probably going to be more of, can we afford not to turn it on? Okay, and we'll help, with that question.
How much of that 1.6 million, just for talking, is what you calculated in your experience that I actually put in working from age 18 years old to 65?
I'm sorry, what your first name was again?
Craig.
Ray?
Craig.
Craig. That's a question. I mean, I would have to know your taxable income from the day you started. That's impossible to figure out.
Gotcha, okay, I didn't know.
Social Security knows, but you should see it in your statement. They should have what your total wages that you put in. But for us, I wouldn't be able to
I didn't know
calculate.
whether
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to.
20% of that is really
No. What you should know though is it used to be when FDR created Social Security, it was not taxed. So now, regardless, again, we don't get political here. Regardless of political party, the first tax on Social Security came from Ronald Reagan. He added a 50% tax. If you made certain amount of income, you were taxed on Social Security. 50% of it was taxed. And then Bill Clinton came, and then he raised the tax level to 85%. So no matter what party you're from, both of you, they attacked Social Security. It was never supposed to be taxed. We're hearing now that they're saying eliminate tax on Social Security. Who knows if that's going to get...
Hope and pray.
Yeah, we could hope and pray, but right now it's taxed.
We already got taxed on it already.
No,
So they're going to get taxed again?
They've been taxing it since the 70s.
Mandatory Medicare comes out.
So we're going to talk about taxes in a second, and I'll address why that is, okay? Yeah, we're going to address it right now, actually. So, how many people in this room here, their largest investable asset, and the largest asset is, besides their house probably, their 401k, 403b, IRA, your tax-deferred retirement account? How many people in the room, that's their biggest investment? Does everybody have an IRA, 401k, 403b? You guys can raise your hands. If you have it, you raise your hands. Okay. Whoever does your taxes, have you ever charted out what the taxes you're going to pay on your required minimum distributions that start at age 73 years old? Anybody ever done that chart? Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Our country, and here's why, ma'am, Social Security is taxed. And tax brackets are going to be going up in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Our country right now is $36+ trillion in debt. Our federal government doesn't make one product. What they do is raise revenue from taxes. Okay? And so we spend, I think this year's budget was $7 million. And $7 trillion, and we only bring in $5 trillion in tax revenue. So we're always running at a $2 trillion deficit, okay? And that just gets added to the national debt. There's a website called usdebtclock.org you can go on. It is, first of all, don't look at it too long because it's just spinning numbers. That's how fast our debt's moving on the upside. You should check that out and really want to get sick to your stomach. I think it's 100... Every person in America, in the United States, whether you were born a day old to the oldest person in the United States, if we all paid like $108,000, we'd be out of debt. Every person owes $108,000. That's why your stuff's taxable. I'm going to ask you a question that you should know the answer. If you were paying attention to my TV show, you would know the answer to this question. How much money is sitting in these tax-deferred accounts? 401k, 403b, IRA, 457. How much money do you think is sitting in these accounts? Untaxed money. Right now. Over $40 trillion. You were paying attention. Over $40 trillion is sitting untaxed in tax-deferred accounts. So do you think with a stroke of a pen, a politician will be able to change some tax laws to increase the taxes on these tax-deferred accounts? Because people who have 401ks and IRAs, you guys are the 1%ers. You're the rich. A politician's number one job is to get reelected. All right, we agree with that? Everybody agree? Okay, so if they went out and campaigned and said, I'm going to raise income taxes on every working America in the United States, my campaign's we're going to raise your taxes on your income. Who's voting for that politician? Nobody. But what if that politician said, hey, we're going to tax the rich people, the people who have the 401ks that have $500,000 in their 401k or $1 million in their 403b. We're going to raise the taxes on those accounts. It's a small percentage of people that have them. Do you think that would get passed? Easily, because a politician can get reelected on that. I said I started this practice in 1986 with my dad, right? And back in the late 80s, I don't know if you remember, when you took a distribution from your IRA or 401k, you paid federal taxes. You paid state of New Jersey taxes if you're here in Jersey, and you also paid an excise tax. There was a 15% excise tax that used to be implemented on taxable distributions. They did away with that in the early 90s with a stroke of a pen from Congress. We're $36 trillion in debt, $40 trillion in tax-deferred accounts. With a stroke of a pen, we could be paying a ton more in taxes. So if you're not doing tax planning strategies, you need to do that. You need to wake up and figure out how can I get money out of these qualified plans. Where do you think tax rates are going? Everybody else, have you also heard there's 10 to 15,000 people a day retiring? The baby boomers are coming to retire. They're retiring now, right? In a few years, there's going to be less working people than retired people. What's going to happen to tax rates? Every accountant that we talk to or tax attorney says they think tax rates are going to be going up. So now common sense, your 401k, 403b, IRA, 457, those are tax deferred accounts. You pay taxes later. So if I were to tell you that the tax rates are going to be higher later, wouldn't it make sense to get money out of the tax deferred? Do you want to pay taxes in a tax deferred account when the tax rates are highest or when they're the lowest? The lowest, right? Well, that's where we're in right now. But there's nobody out there telling people, take the distributions out now, do Roth conversions. And we'll talk about some of these different options that you have. It's so important to do an analysis on your retirement accounts that we built a website. And if you're paying attention to the show, we built a website called dpstaxbill.com. And you go to that website and just plug in some information, your name, your age, what you expect to earn in interest on your 401k or IRA, what tax rate you think you're going to be in, and you can play around with it and make the taxes higher. It will calculate instantly a tax analysis on what taxes you're going to pay. And if you don't at least do that, then you really today just came for the lunch, right? Because we're going to implement some strategies that can help you in that area. So I'm going to give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you're 65 years old, you have $500,000 sitting in your 401k, IRA, 403b, 450, in your tax-deferred retirement account. Whatever the number is in the letters, it doesn't matter, right? You're 65, you have 8 years to go until RMDs kick in, right? So on that tax calculator, we ran the charts. It sits now, your accountant's not telling you to take the money out now, your accountant's telling you to defer, right? That's all we hear. Defer till you're 73. At 73 years old, that IRA is now worth $859,000. Your required minimum distribution that year is $34,747 that you owe taxes on, that now becomes part of your taxable income, okay? And let's say we're living longer, we're gonna live to 90. At 90 years old, you would have pulled out $1.1 million in distributions. And let's just use today's tax rate, 24% federal tax rate, okay? You're gonna pay on your distributions $264,000 in income taxes on your RMDs. $264 that you're gonna pay. There's still $1 million left in that IRA that's gonna go down to your kids, grandkids, or whoever you name as a beneficiary, that they have to pay taxes on. It used to be that you could spread that benefit, that inherited IRA out over your lifetime. Well, 2 years ago, now it's a 10-year window. You have a 10-year window to get the money out of that inherited IRA. So let's say you have 2 kids, and they're each gonna get $500,000 of an inherited IRA. They have 10 years to take that money out, 50 grand a year each. Probably in their prime working years, making the most money they'd make in their own salary. Now they have to pull out $50,000 from an inherited IRA that they got from you guys. And let's say that puts them into a 30% tax bracket. Is everything okay, sir? What's the matter?
I'm fine.
Okay. Just, you look like you were, okay. If any issues, you want to take a break and you can go out. Okay. If you're in the kids are in a 30% tax bracket, they're going to pay taxes of $309,000. So on an IRA that was worth $500 at 65 years old, you and your family are going to pay taxes of $573,000 on those IRA distributions. That's the calculation when you go to dpstaxbill.com and plug your numbers in to see how much you're going to pay in taxes. It's disgusting, right? So, what are some of your options? Well, you could do nothing and just continue going on the path you're on. Wait till 73, take the distributions out, pay the tax, let the money go to your kids, let them pay the tax, and do nothing. Or you can pay taxes now, take some money out, a little bit of money out, and we could do a Roth conversion and get tax-free growth and tax-free benefits. You can convert to a traditional IRA to a Roth. You can use life insurance if you're looking to pass on the assets. If you don't need them, you can pass on the assets with life insurance. Let me just give you one example of what the Roth would be. And I'm just going to tell you, we can go from paying $573,000 in taxes, or we could do a Roth conversion over that 8-year period and only pay $150,000 in taxes. That's it. Get the same income for you, same income for your kids, but only pay $150,000 in taxes. Which taxes would you rather pay? $150 or $575? If you're not doing tax planning strategies, and most of you said you have tax deferred accounts, you need to be looking at tax planning strategies to reduce the taxes, because they're only going to get worse, ladies and gentlemen. Tax rates are going up. They're only going to get worse. Do you remember Ronald Reagan? He was an actor before he became president. You guys remember that? Okay, do you know when he made a movie, I think in the mid-50s, he made a movie and made $1 million. The highest tax rate that year was 90%. He paid 90% in taxes on $1 million movie. That's why as soon as he became president, his first thing was to reduce taxes, reduce government, so that people wouldn't pay a 90% tax rate. But we're so far gone in our debt, I'm not sure if that can happen anymore. So you have to look at tax planning strategies. You know, you can make, if you're a single filer, you can make up to $197,000 in income and still be in a 24% tax bracket federally. Married couple can make $394,000 and still be in a 24% tax bracket. The objective when you do Roth conversions is trying to keep you in the lowest tax bracket as possible. So there's a lot of room for Roth conversion work, and we do a lot of that with our clients today as well. Some questions on taxes on qualified plans.
Is your social security counted in and pension on the 394?
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
That counts as income.
That's taxable income. Yep, taxable income. Yep. Pension, Social Security, work if you're working part time. You know, rental income that counts. Dividends on a portfolio, whether you invest them or take them, that counts as income. So you can go up to $394,000 and still be in a 24% tax bracket. If you can convert to Roth in that rate, it's something that you should look into. At least investigate whether it's in your best interest. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a year that you can stop being taxed at a certain age?
No.
It's always, I mean,
Always. Always.
never.
No.
Never.
We're $36 trillion in debt, and there's $40 trillion in tax deferred accounts. There's no break.
No break.
No break. Any other questions?
What is the advertisement I noticed on TV last night? Take your 50 your pension and convert it over to gold. What's the reason?
That's a sales gimmick.
That's a what?
That's a sales gimmick.
Oh, sale.
Yeah. Who's the actor that does that? William Devane. William Devane.
Last night that said convert it over because you don't have to pay tax on it.
No. No, you can convert your IRA to gold, and you're moving it from the gold has to be in an IRA, and it's still in an IRA. It's not saving taxes. What he's talking about is to try and scare us because the markets and the dollar, and they're trying to sell gold. The guy's a retired actor. He's making a living doing commercials to try and sell gold bars for that company. That's all that is. There's no tax benefit to that at all. Whether you have gold, stocks, CDs, annuities, savings accounts in your IRA, you're not saving taxes. It's just a different investment tool. Okay?
I didn't know. I just saw it last night. I thought I'd ask you.
So what are some other benefits of getting tax-free income versus tax-deferred income? Because we just said you count all those other income streams, right? Who here is paying for Medicare? What happens when you turn 65, right? You got to pay for Medicare, right? Yeah. Aren't your premiums dictated by how much your taxable income is?
Yes.
Okay, so now start adding distributions from your from your IRA into your taxable income. Your Medicare premiums are going to be going up, right? Well, if you take the same amount of income from a Roth IRA, it doesn't count towards Medicare because it's tax-free income. The more time you have between your age to 73 years old, the better off you are because you have a lot of time to look at some options to reduce those tax-deferred accounts. And if you're not talking to your accountant about it, you're not talking to your current financial advisor about it, they're not doing you a service. They're not doing their jobs, okay? We do that job at DPS Advisors. Talk a little bit about inflation, right? We live in probably one of the most expensive areas in the world, in the country I'm at, right? So I'll spend a little bit of time on this because we want to, lunch is going to be coming out. So who really thinks inflation rate's 3.9%? That's what the government tells us it is, right? 3.9%. Who thinks it's that rate? I went for a steak next door Friday night with my wife. It was like $85 for a steak.
Go buy eggs.
Well, eggs, eggs. The issue with eggs right now is a little bit inflationary, but there was a bird flu. Yeah, there was an issue there. But no, it's not just eggs, milk, everything is way more expensive than 3.9%. I think it's more close to double digits, right? Gallon of gas is up. Everything's up, especially around here. We pay the highest, everything's crazy. I just wonder why we still live here. It's crazy. I said to my wife all the time, what are we doing here? But it's crazy expensive. If inflation is in the 8% range, and the reason why I say this is because when you retire, you're not making a salary anymore. You only have a set amount of income. Social Security, pension, investment income, your income's the same. But if inflation is increasing every year, it's taking a bite out of what your income is, you have less money to spend on, right? So at an 8% inflation rate, we're just talked about we're living longer. So if you're 65 years old, your expenses are going to double every 8 years. Every 8 years at an 8% inflation rate. So if we're living 25, 30 years in retirement, think about this for a second. Your monthly expenses, and this is only for easy math, your monthly expenses are $5,000 a month. 8 years from now, they're going to be $10,000. 8 years after that, they're going to be 20,000. It's crazy what these expenses are going to go with inflation as it is right now. If you don't have a rising income stream plan set up throughout your retirement years, that's another avenue of opportunity that you should be looking at. If your current advisor is not showing you how to create increasing income streams throughout your retirement stages, you're missing the boat. You're missing an opportunity. You're not working with a fiduciary, okay? You need to have rising income streams, increasing income streams. Does that make sense? Because if you just sit at a pension and Social Security and that's it, and expect, if you even have a pension, pensions stopped in the late 70s, so unless you're a government employee, police, fire, teacher, hospital, even the private sector, you don't have pensions anymore. So you really need to pay attention to the inflationary issues. What's going to affect you in retirement? And that's why we talk about inflation being the hidden tax. So we'll show you how to create an increasing income stream throughout your retirement life. This is just more examples of inflation. So then we'll talk about market volatility, right? So the last topic we're going to hit. Any questions about taxes? No questions? Okay, we talked a little bit before with this gentleman. Real quick, before we move on. Everybody in this room is allowed to gift $19,000 to any person they want to. And you don't have to, you don't get a tax deduction for it, but that person who receives that benefit doesn't have to pay taxes on it as income. So if you have an estate tax issue, gifting to your kids and grandkids can be a way to start reducing the value of your estate. Each person can give $19,000. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a limit to how many gifts you can make?
No. Your favorite financial advisor can get a gift.
Okay.
There's no limit, but no limit on how many. But the amount is the limit, 19.
If one of your spouses pass away.
How many spouses do you have?
No. If a spouse passes away,
Yes.
then only one person can gift it. She can't put it in the will and say.
No.
No, I'm just saying.
No, that's a great question. No, she's gone.
When she-
Then you got another one. Unless you get another spouse.
Yeah, but then she gets everything.
Well, you better have a good prenup. No. Once your spouse passes, then there's one person left, and he or she can still do $19,000 a year.
19.
So that technique is used to reduce estate values, for estate tax issues. Okay, so I know we talked about it. That's why I wanted to just bring it up real quick. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So aside from that 19,000 gift, if someone passes away, let's say you pass away and you leave your son your estate, what is the tax rules for inheritance?
Well, right now, unless your estate's worth like $17 million, you don't have an estate tax problem with the federal government. The state of New Jersey, it used to be $675 forever. Now it's like a few $1 million. So even in the state of New Jersey, unless you have, close to 10 million, you don't really have an estate tax issue.
Okay, so the inheritor doesn't pay taxes on the money?
No, not on your estate. But now, if you passed on a $10 million IRA,
Right.
that person's going to pay income taxes, not estate taxes, income taxes on that IRA they inherit.
Just a question about this gift. If I give to my grandson, I don't pay any taxes on this. What about the other side?
No, they don't have to pay taxes.
Nobody pays.
Nobody pays. You don't get a tax deduction for it. You just gift 19 grand. It gets out of your estate. They receive it and don't have to pay taxes on it.
Thank you.
Okay?
How about stocks? Can you gift stocks without?
Up to $19,000.
Up to 19.
Yes.
Can you gift it into a trust?
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? A trust isn't a human being. That's a pretty good question. I have to ask my attorney that question. That's a pretty good question. I'm not sure, but you're only allowed to gift you and your wife, if you have a spouse, can gift 19 each. I'm not sure if they could put it in a trust or not. I don't think it would matter because they're not paying. I got to find out. I'll find that out.
Well, you realize why you do it, because you don't want them to spend it next week on a new Corvette or a down payment on a car.
So you want to control your money from the grave?
Okay.
Exactly.
Doesn't everybody?
Exactly. No, I know. Especially the old timers. Yep, I get it. Okay, market volatility, right? So when you, in fact, we're going through some of it right now. It's a little crazy what's going on in the markets the last couple of weeks, right? When you're working and you're investing in these 401ks, 403bs, right? You're putting money in every paycheck. You want market volatility because when the market's down, you're buying more shares, right? You're investing money and you're buying more shares of this stuff. The market's always turned back around. I think the S&P 500 index over its history has averaged almost a 13% return, counting all the years it was down, 2008, 2022, 2000, 1987, 1929. You count all the years the markets were down. It still has averaged over that time almost a 13% return, okay? You want market volatility when you're building your portfolio. Once you're within that, we call it the retirement red zone, within like 5 years of retiring, what are you going to do now? Most of us don't have a pension unless we're government employees or police, fire, and teachers. You need your assets for income. So you're going to be taking money out of your assets in retirement. So you can't be still investing as if you're still working and worried about pulling money out, because market volatility now is your worst enemy. And I'll give you some examples of that, right? So we're going to talk about the depth of the drop, recovery time, getting back to even, timing in the lost decade. So getting back to even. Most people think, if I lose 10% in the market, all I got to do is 10% to get my money back. That's totally not true. In 2022, we lost between 20 and 30% in the market, right? So what is most people's reaction to that? They go to cash. They get scared, right? We go to cash. I can't lose any more money. I'm going to go to cash. Well, if you went to cash and got a 3% return and lost 30% of your portfolio, it's going to take you 12 years to get your money back to even from that downturn of 2022. 12 years. If you earn 6% on that money, it's going to take you 6.1 years to get your money back, that 30% loss. At an 8% return, which means you're staying invested, it's 4.5 years. The problem with market volatility as we get older is we don't have the amount of time for recovery, like when we were 20, 30, 40 years old. We're now 50, 60, 70 years old. We have less time for the recovery. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's say you start off with, here's another example. If you want to get back to even in 1 year, let's say you have $100,000 in 2022, the market, your portfolio, that 60-40 balanced portfolio. Everybody heard of that? A balanced portfolio, your advisor says put some money in bonds and keep some money in stocks. You're going to be safe. You're not going to have any issues. Well, in 2022, what did the Federal Reserve start doing? Raising rates, right? What happened to bond values in 2022? They got hammered because of a rising interest rate environment. Bonds are not safety investments. Bonds are just a different type of risk. So most advisors are telling people 60-40, balanced portfolio, you're not going to have any issues. In 2024, that 60-40 portfolio was down 25%. Okay? So if you were down 25%, you only have $75,000 left in your portfolio. To get your money back in 1 year, you have to invest it to where you need a 33% return to get it back to $100,000 in a year. Most people are going to cash because they're panicking, right? They're not going to get a 33% return. So the 60-40 balanced portfolio in retirement is not a safety mechanism to use. It's not going to get you safety. It's just a different type of risk. And our job as your licensed fiduciary advisor is to explain to you the risks of all the different financial tools that you have at your disposal so that you can pick a true safety investment that can't go down when the markets are going down. That's how you reduce market volatility in your portfolio, because you don't want to go to cash. Here's the lost decade. Let's say you retired in 2000 and you had $1 million in that IRA. And who heard of the 4% withdrawal rule? Remember the 4% rule? If you take 4% out of your money, 4% out of your portfolio, you'll never run out of money no matter how long you live, right? Well, let's just say you started that in 2000. $1 million, You pull your 40% out. In 2000, the S&P was down 10.4%. So you had 108 grand of market loss plus your $40,000 withdrawal. You keep doing that. 2021, down 13%. 2022, down 23%. Then we had big increases. At the end of 10 years, your $1 million is now 480 grand. Now we said we're living to almost 30 years in retirement. You have less than half of your money. Now I don't know if the next 10 years are going to be what those 10 years are, but you can't afford to risk whether it isn't going to be that, right? Let's talk also about this tax required minimum distribution. Let's say you retired in 2022 with that same $1 million IRA. Now, you know how they calculate the RMD, right? It's the December 31st value the year before. So let's say in 2022, you were turning 73 years old. December 31st of 21, you have $1 million. So your required minimum distribution is about 40 grand. The IRS says you have to take it out, no matter what. In that year, 2022, the market was down 25%. So your $1 million IRA, first year in retirement, is down 250 grand because of the market, and you have to take out 40,000. The RMD is based on the million, not the 750 it's worth. So you take the $40,000 out of the RMD, you're now left with 710 at the end of 2022. So your IRA just went down 30% in the first year of retirement. And we're living longer today, not shorter. Market volatility in retirement is totally different than what it should be when you're growing your portfolio. Does that make sense? Okay. So what are your 3 investment rules? Who has most of the wealth in the United States? College endowments, right? Everybody, you hear Harvard's endowments, $70 billion, right? All these endowments. Do you think they're invested in Amazon stock and Nvidia and all these crazy risk investments? No. The fund purpose of a college endowment is exactly what the fund purpose or the investment purpose of a retiree should be. I want to protect my principal. I want to get some income, a little bit of income. And if you can, grow it a little bit. When you're building your portfolio, you need to average the 13 to 15% returns. When you're taking money from your portfolio, you can't afford to take the risk of that type of investment because you could lose 30%. And we just talked to you what that would look like. So your 3 rules of investment in retirement: protect my principal, get me some income, and if you can, grow it a little bit. That's investing in retirement, and that's what we do. The screen you see up on the slide you see on the screen right now is what we call our 3 investment world discussion. We have this discussion with every person that comes into our office. Our objective is to tell you about where you can put your money. We have the world of safety and guarantees. We have the world of risk and investments. We can't take all our money out of the market because we are living longer. We need to create that rising income stream. So I need to have some money invested, but I'm not going to touch that money for 10 or 15 years down the road. So when we split your assets up into multiple buckets, I'm going to use a bank for an emergency fund because we all should have an emergency fund. If you have an emergency fund, it's going to allow you not to invade your investment account in the event of an emergency. So I'm going to keep a little bit of money in the bank, not too much. People come into my office, and now my job isn't to tell you what to do. My job is to tell you the pros and cons of what you're doing. If you have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 sitting in CDs because you're scared, you are making your bank billionaires and not yourself. And there's ways to do that, to make your money work for you. Now, my job, again, isn't to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you the benefits, the pros and cons of what you're doing, and you decide. If you heard me on the show, our motto is educate and empower people so they can make better decisions with their hard-earned money. So there's a lot of people that come into our office that are sitting here with so much money sitting in a bank CD. Now, yeah, for 1 year, you got a 5% return. For the last 15 years, you were getting 0, right? But they loan that money out to young kids in credit cards at 30%. Yeah, we had a Crate and Barrel thing. We bought something at Crate and Barrel that was six months free, no interest. So we bought a piece of furniture and I paid it off in the 6 months. If I didn't pay it off, it's 33% interest rate on a Crate and Barrel credit card. I'm like, that's crazy. So my point is, if you think your banks are loaning their money out at 3%, they're loaning it out in credit cards and mortgages and all kinds of things, individual loans. So you're making the bank money if you have way too much money sitting in a bank. So then we look at true safe investments that can't go down with the market. Banks have equity-linked CDs. They'll give you the principal protection, but they'll get interest based on equity, S&P 500, things like that. Fixed annuities. Equity-linked CDs.
Links.
Equity-linked. L-I-N-K-E-D. Okay. Equity-linked CDs. Fixed annuities work like CDs. You get typically you get a better return than what a CD will give you. Your principal's protected, but you get better rates of returns. Then we go to the world of Wall Street, right? You have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities, REITs, hedge funds. This is where you're in all different you're in market risk, interest rate risk, your monies are going up and down. So if we're going to create a guaranteed increasing income stream, we're going to take this reinvestment world discussion and divide your assets up into buckets of money. So my first 5 to 7 years, I'm going to take assets from my safe money world. I have 7 to 12 years, I'm going to be in half of safe money and Wall Street money. And then my money for 15 years down the road, I'm going to be in Wall Street because I know if the market goes down in 2025, I'm not touching that bucket till 2035. So that money was going to rebound and grow. So when you split your assets up into multiple buckets, you can create an increasing income stream and not worry about running out of money. But if you have like I showed you before, if you have all of your money sitting in Wall Street, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, all your money's in Wall Street, that account went down 25% last year, 2022. So you can't afford to do that. Then you can't make those. You're going to panic and go to cash when the market goes down because your whole portfolio is going down. But if I know I'm not touching that bucket for 15 years, I'm going to let that ride. I don't care. I'm not going to panic and make a crazy decision. That's what we do with DPS Advisors. So we're going to wrap up. Lunch will be coming out. So what are we offering? We do these events. We call these retirement master classes. That's what we call these things. We educate and empower people so that you can make a better decision with your hard-earned money. So we're going to offer everybody in this room. Our office is in Roseland, right on Eisenhower Parkway. You want to come in for an hour, hour and a half, whatever, half hour, we'll set it at a time, come into our office. We have our schedule here. Won't cost you anything. There's no obligation. There's no cost. We'll talk about why you really came here besides the one person here for lunch. Well, why did you come? You had to come here for something, right? There's something going on in your plan, whether it's taxes on qualified plans, whether it's creating income streams, market volatility. So we're offering everybody in this room an opportunity to come in, spend an hour, and let's review what's going on in your plan. No stress, no obligation, no cost. And that's what we're offering everybody here. So we again, like I told you before we started, I have to get all of these pieces of paper with your name on it, your phone number, so I can prove to the IRS that you were here. And we also put on that sheet, I think, a box of whether yes, you want us to set an appointment with us or no, okay? Ted and Luke will be outside with our calendar, so if you can, if you want to sit with us, you can go and make an appointment, even if make it for 2 weeks down the road. And if you don't have your calendar with you, that's fine. We could always reschedule it when you get back, but at least make the appointment before you leave today. So with that, any questions from anybody? I'm going to be here for a little bit.